We're in. Welcome to VCQ, everybody.
Welcome indeed.
Regular viewers will know that we tried a test in the week, and we have now added the possibility for sound, guitar sound, to the VCQ arsenal. So where it's relevant, we'll do that. But we are also aware that it's very hard to stay on top of the chat as it is. So adding more confusion may well not help. But consider this a test, because what it might mean is that in addition to VCQ, we can do specific live shows where we take a specific topic, for example, and we can interact directly on that one specific topic. So consider it a test.
Yeah.
As usual, I'm gesticulating like, I don't know what, but...
One of those things that you get outside car dealerships that blow up and down in the air.
Yes. Or an octopus.
Mr. Blowy.
Anyway, Tony, first on. Good on you, mate. Tony Brooks, hello.
Good on you, Tony.
Sonoma County, says John Newkist. Who else have we got? Evening all from Ireland, says Ragged Company Recordings. Will Garrison, greetings from Birmingham. Ocean City, Maryland, from Nathan. Blimey. We got loads on.
And Malsing, g'day, mate. Yes, we're all good.
Hi, Anmol. Thank you, BV, for moderating today, as always.
Gary Gaggles from Surrey. We've got Zidwanzen from Austria. Alan Bartlett from Newbury in the UK. George Frangudes from London. Dave Late, howdy from Oregon City. The End of the Trail. Is that the... Oh, this is a really great film with... she was in
Renée Zellweger.
Yeah, no. About this girl who did this massive trail that I think ends in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I think that's what he was referring to. It's quite
Diana
famous.
Dawes.
That's the one. Steve Foster, g'day, mate. Casey Chovanik, morning from Boise, Idaho.
Oh, John Newquist, thanks, John. That's very kind of you.
Thank you, John.
Oh, blimey, we got a question coming in already, Dan.
Okay.
From G Barge.
G'day, G Barge.
Hello, G Barge. Greetings from Northern California. I wonder if you could please comment on the Ascent by Hampstead and who it supports. One is about to arrive at my home, so I'd love to hear your comments on ordering it before, after drives, preamps, etc. So, I didn't know about this. You told me about this.
Yes. I actually have one at home that I'm building at the moment. The Ascent it's basically a very clean, high headroom boost. And knowing Peter Hampstead as I do, he's an amazing engineer. Like literally, you have some guys who build pedals who sort of tinker around the edges. Peter's like a physicist, like really full on. And he's made this thing that's like brilliant headroom, amazing transients, really awesome. And the idea behind this is that it's being built by guitar techs who aren't on tour at the moment.
Okay.
And the sort of the money from that is going to pay these techs to sort of help support them.
So what they get the thing, build it and sell it?
They get the so it's all sold through Hampstead, but it's sent out to them in kits.
Right.
So they basically put it all together and test it. Sent back to Hampstead, they test it again. But yeah, the fact that the techs are putting it together, and the money sort of goes to help them, to support them.
Cool.
Yeah,
so
really,
it's a
really
worthy
great
cause.
idea.
Thanks for buying one.
Yeah.
A couple of points. We do have quite a lot of bugs today. The farm is in overdrive, and the flies are going. So if you see some. Matt Lloyd, hi Matt. Matt says we need a T-shirt if you haven't made it already with "Now with more better" on it. So
Now with more better.
I'm glad someone has seen the comedy thumbnail with the cheesiest font I could find and a star graphic courtesy of Adobe Illustrator. Yeah.
And just to finish that question off from G Barge, where it will go in the chain, it can literally go anywhere, but it is a full frequency like boost attenuation. So having it at the very end of your chain or before your stereo effects, if you're running stereo, it'll handle anything you put into it. So if you just want like a master boost, like make everything louder, just put it right at the end of your chain, and it'll work brilliantly.
Does it go below Unity?
It does.
So you could use it as an underboost?
You can use it as an underdriver.
Would it work in your effects loop?
Absolutely.
Cool.
It's really great, actually. It sounds. So I've got one that's all built up that I've been playing with, and it's just divine. And one that I'm going to play. I'm going to build one, and you and I are going to sign it, and then we'll send it off to boys at Hampstead, and they all sell it and
Awesome.
stuff. Yeah.
Cool as. The fossil 76 says the reason I wrote hello from Poland last time is I was typing on my small phone after 3 hours after surgery with general anaesthetic. Right before the surgery, I watched TPS 2. Well, we hope you're doing all right, fossil 76, and whatever it is you had done was straightforward.
Yeah, I hope you're feeling better.
And you're feeling okay. Right
Dave
then.
Lee says, hi both. How would you go about dialing in a sound that sits well in a live band mix without wasting your bandmates' time? Thank you for all the inspiration and fun. So there's a trick that I use. There are two noise generators. You get white noise and pink noise. Pink noise is really good because it basically sort of, what's the word? It replicates sort of ambient noise, right? White noise is all the frequencies, just pink noise is just, it's like a mixture of like lots of ambient noise. So if you get a pink noise generator and get that up to a certain level and dial your sound in at home with over a pink noise generator, and you'll hear the frequencies that stick out, the ones that don't.
That's really interesting.
One of the really interesting things about trying to dial your sound, and like I'm sure everyone's experienced this, you get the sound at home, sounds amazing. Get to the gig, you're playing at a completely different volume level. Everything sounds different. You know, there are things that you can hear, things that you can't hear. So yeah, just try dialing it in over a pink noise generator, and it can be really, really helpful.
I take a less technological approach and make sure that my rhythm sound is quieter than I think it should be by some margin.
Oh, wow.
And make sure the mids are scooped out. That way the singer never moans.
Okay.
And then...
rarely moans.
Yeah, rarely moans, yeah. Because often the singer is me. So then the solo sound is so loud it makes everyone cry.
Okay.
And that
Perfect.
That works.
Nailed it.
I find that works.
Brilliant.
Chris Parsons, loved the last show. Dan, what jazz box do you have?
Oh, so I've got an old Washburn jazz box, and it was given to me by my guitar teacher before he left. So my guitar teacher is a guy called Mark Johns, absolutely astonishing guitar player, and we're really good mates. He's actually my first ever gig customer. So, and he used to play guitar for Ray Davies. It's spelt Davies, pronounced Davis. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. Okay, Ray Davis. And anyway, we became friends. And then he was my guitar teacher for a couple of years while he was living in London. And he's just the best guy. And before he left, this was his guitar that he used to do all of his jazz sessions in London.
No way.
Before he left, he gave me the guitar. And I just, it's not a really expensive guitar or anything, but oh my goodness, it's beautiful. It just feels
really
wonderful.
cool.
So that's my jazz box, and I adore it.
That's really cool. John Lawrence, how many watts is the Soldano? It's the new 30-watt one. We've got 100 on the way that we're going to borrow from Rabia.
Right.
But we just literally took it out of the box today, and it sounds really good.
It does. Have you seen Rabia's demo?
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, I didn't watch the whole
really
thing,
cool.
but yeah. So
Ty Roberts says, congrats of pulling the tech together to raise TPS to the next level. Love the effort to keep it up. Thank you, Ty. So I'm assuming it's all working then.
yeah, we should say thanks to Fraser.
Fraser has been an absolute epic.
Who's done a lot of learning very quickly with things like OBS and getting the ATEM to work and yeah. So that's really cool. So hopefully it's going to work, and it's going to work long term.
Yeah.
As always, we're sort of out there in the middle of the lake on the thin ice. Dill650 says, what happened to Mixed Derek Trucks SG? It was never mine. It was a review guitar that was into Guitarist magazine, and they never really asked for it back, which often happened with Gibson, or they would not ask for it back for a long, long time because it just went into artist stock, so it was considered artist stock.
Right.
And then it might get taken back and lent to another artist or purchased by another artist. Anyway, and then it just didn't go back and I had it for ages and ages and ages. And then when I left the magazine, then obviously I had to give it back. So, or I felt it was the right thing to give it back. I'm sure they probably never would have noticed, but there we are.
Yes. Matt Lloyd. G'day, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Thanks for everything you guys do. Thank you, Matt. And thank you for your all your comments and stuff. It's really great, Matt. Thank you so much.
Icoms says motion for a Lengacher. Is that how you pronounce it? Lengacher's theorem. Is it Lengacher? Theorem T-shirt, which is X equals N plus 1, where X is the ideal number of guitars or pedals and N is the number currently owned.
Yes.
It's
That's great. I love that.
It is the it's the guitarist's theorem, isn't it?
It's wonderful. Vibers Patil says, "Hey gents, I'm facing a problem. I'm feeling some electric current whenever I touch the strings on my guitar. Is this a grounding issue with the power outlets? Will a power conditioner or any other device solve this? If you're feeling current flow through you, then yes, that's a problem. So if basically you want continuity, no matter what you plug in, like we've got a pedal board and 2 amplifiers, but we have continuity from earth between the output of the guitar. So basically underneath the bridge of the guitar is a wire that connects the strings and the bridge plate to the shield or the earth of the output that goes into the input of the board, and then there's continuity from that shield all the way through to the amplifier, and then there's continuity from the input and the shield of the amplifier all the way through to the earth, right? So you need continuity from here to the earth pin on your power. Now, if you're touching that and you're feeling current run through you, basically, the current is looking for the quickest way to get to ground. If you don't have an earth on your amplifier, then often that is going to be the quickest way to get to ground is going to be through you, and that's so dangerous. So you need to get that checked out. It sounds like you might have an earthing problem where you are. It might be that.
Unlikely to be static, isn't it?
Yeah, because that'll dissipate like really quickly.
Yeah, unless it's super dry, and one of the reasons guitars get scratchy sounding and staticky in dry climates is because it can't go anywhere because it's too humid.
Sure.
Not humid enough.
But yeah, I would get that checked out. It says, will a power conditioner or any other device solve this? No, because your power conditioner, if you've got an earthing problem in your home, it's still going to be, whether you condition the power or not, it will still be an earthing problem, so be safe and get that checked out.
Michael Force, hi Michael, I've missed a couple of VCQs and now I want to hear all about Dan's goat mentioned at Guitar Breaks. That's a story not for today.
No.
All we're saying is it didn't end well for the goat
really
or
didn't.
Dan's mental health.
No, it really didn't.
Vincent Dealer.
Thanks, Mum.
Vincent Dealer, thank you for your kindness. Nick Larson, Saturday's episode convinced me to pull the trigger on my own black American Vintage 59 to pair with my American Vintage 64. Damn you all, yes. Damn us all, I would say. It's a cool guitar, isn't it? It's a really cool guitar.
Brandon Holiday says, been looking for an amp for the home, looking for an amp with power scaling. Do you have any recommendations? It just depends what sort of amp that you're after. The sort of one amp that we're both loving at the moment is the Tone King. And that has inbuilt power scaling, is that right?
Imperial Mark II. It's got the built-in Iron Man 2 attenuator. It's the best attenuator I've ever heard.
It's astonishing, that amplifier. I don't
know if it's power scaling or whether it's just a straight attenuator. But the other one that's fantastic is the Sir Badger 30. That does have power scaling.
Right.
But that's crazy. I would say it's too much for home. There's plenty of other amps out there that have got lower wattage switches. So like the little Bugera T5 tiny thing that we've got kicking around, that goes down to like a 0.2 watts or something. Similarly, the Victory Sheriff 22 goes down to a third of a watt.
Wow.
So there's quite a lot of amps out there that have low power modes, and some of them work and some of them don't work. What they did in the Victory, interestingly, is Martin put a whole separate speaker output for that.
Wow, okay.
Because he felt like the transformer wasn't really doing the right job, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Dan and I are both loving the Tone King Imperial Mark II, which is fan-bloomin-tastic.
Amazing sounding amp.
Pretty expensive and potentially overkill for home, but
sure.
My goodness, depends on your home.
Brian Garcia, he says, hi guys, everything is looking and sounding top. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Just finished watching the High Watt Colour Sound video. Did Mick ever replace his Klon with one of the colour sounds? I think you had mentioned that you might be doing that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I really like using it. I like the colour sound with the master volume on it very much. But it's one of those things that falls between two stools for me. So the Klon definitely just does one thing, and it does it in a way that I'm addicted to. And then for fuzz and stuff like that and overdrives, I have different pedals. What the color driver does really well is sort of bridges the gap. And it can give you a bit of fuzz, or it can give you this massive kicking boost.
Yeah.
But I found that I just prefer like my fuzz is separate and my boost separate. So, but it's a crazy good thing. Daiwa 3 Dilwas. Hi, my band just finished a 7-day recording stint for our first album, all live. We're thanking TPS in the credits for all the great info.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Oh,
Nice
wow.
one. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
How cool.
Noah Bottomer. Thanks, Noah. He says, the ascent inspires me. I don't want to make extra work for you, but I've been fortunate during COVID and want to help new musicians. If you can sort it, I'll match $500 for a newbie gear pool. Thank you, Noah. That's really generous. One of the problems that we have doing giveaways and stuff is actually a lot more complicated than it sounds. There are whole legal requirements and that around that. So I don't know if we actually have the manpower at the moment but that's so kind of you. I don't know, Mick, what do you think?
It's one of those things that is a wonderful idea and it's great. You just need to find 2 months to do it.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Aussie Bushfire giveaway guy got in and it wrecked his life?
Yeah.
It almost wrecked his life doing that thing because he got into so much trouble with making sure it was all correct and above board, and it just took over his life. So let us ruminate on that.
Yeah, so have a think about that. It's very generous of you, mate. That's very kind.
Think a bit more creatively than we're able to do in this environment.
And it's nice to hear someone during COVID's, not been taken to the wall. So that's great, mate.
Yeah. Curtis McDonald, Mick, ever tried a Max on SD9? Love the sounds Landau and Scott Henderson get out of theirs. Indeed, I have. I've got the Analog Man modded one. I don't like it very much. I don't know why. I haven't worked out how it works, is probably the truth of that. So I gave it to Dan for the upcoming out of your comfort zone rig for your mate. We were both a bit confused, weren't we, when we plugged it in?
Yeah, it's a weird sounding thing.
Yeah.
But I'll spend some more time with it. And I'm doing some research into. Obviously, I've got I'm using that with a California Tweed. But yeah, there's something like a sort of harmonic distortion or something happening in there. It's a bit weird, so I'm going to have a look at it. But very, very interesting pedal, because I do know some people absolutely love them. So yeah, some more research on that one.
Ian M, hate to super chat and run, but thoughts on the Victory V35? I love the matchless, but can't swing $4,000. How close does it get? Have you tried the deluxe?
Is that the copper?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I have, because I made the videos for Victory for both of those amps. The VC35, the compact series head one is really good.
It's wonderful.
The deluxe is something else.
Right.
It is really, really brilliant. But yeah, standard VC35, very nice. Doesn't have the out and out depth and punch of the matchless for sure. We did a video, so you can go back and have a listen. But certainly for the heavier overdrive sounds, I would say it pips the matchless.
Right. Yeah.
If you want a bit more gain,
Yeah. If the gainy thing is you. Yep. Sure.
Yeah, really cool.
Vivas Patil says, Dan, this one's for you. I know you're into martial arts and wanted to ask you for advice on avoiding injuries to the wrist. I've started exercising recently and can feel some pain in my wrists. Any advice on overcoming this? So I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's very little striking. One thing's if you're punching things, and all that impact that goes into your wrist is going to hurt. Especially, I've got this really skinny wrists, and it's. I've never really liked the idea of
so many
punching things. So I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's grappling, and you still have to. You got to be really careful. And I've done a video on this, and I'm going to do an updated one when I get my purple belt. But it's all about like with Jiu-Jitsu and taking care of your hands. It's understanding when to grab hold of something and when to let go. That's the most important thing. People who start out and they get their grips and they hold on for dear life and can actually really cause you injuries, especially if you're an older grappler like I am. So That's the one that works for me.
Older grappler.
Older grappler.
There we go. There we go. Jeff Martin. Okay, gents, think quick. Thanos is about to snap and you have to choose who survives. Gladio, Duelist, KOT.
KOT for me.
Gladio.
There we go. Tom German says, watching Friday's Back in Black 40th tribute, the creator of the Solo Dallas Schaefer replica tower gave a demo on a facsimile of Angus's rig. It left a bit to be desired. Any chance giving the Schaefer the TPS treatment?
Oh, God, I have a terrible admission to make.
Right.
Their PR people got in touch and said, did we want to partner on getting the Back in Black video sound
Oh, okay.
to celebrate the 40th anniversary or whatever it is, or 25th anniversary or whatever it is.
Right.
And like an idiot, I didn't get back to them because, number one, we don't do sound like videos.
No.
Number two, I couldn't face the copyright contract business.
We played a riff. We played one.
But number three, I feel really bad about not replying. They don't care. They literally couldn't care. But
Right.
I don't like not replying
Sure.
because then 8,000 other emails. There's like I got down to 250 emails in my inbox. I'm now up to 1,250 again.
Oh, man.
Unread.
I feel your pain. So with the AC/DC thing, we were playing. I think with the Solo Dallas, we played one riff, like not even 4 bars, and the whole video was demonetized.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a specific AC/DC riff, but because it sounded a bit like AC/DC, they're massively what's the word? Litigious
Litigious for sure,
Litigious.
but also very protective of their
very
IP.
protective.
Yeah,
With
which
good
you know
reasons.
is fair enough. James Emerson Music, thoughts on Nash guitars? I've always thought they felt very nice. I know they're technically not built from scratch, but what is it that makes them feel that way? We have had this question before, James. I had a Nash E-Type for a little while there. I went for dinner with Bill a couple of times. He's a super interesting guy.
Right.
And yeah, just cool guitars. I mean, if you put a parts guitar together, you finish it right, you relic it a bit, and you know what you're doing, it's always going to feel good.
Yeah.
Similarly, those dudes from Denmark, and I always forget the
Huh?
yeah, it could be that. Yeah, there's loads of them out there.
Right.
And if you know what you're doing and you care passionately for those kinds of instruments, yeah, they usually do tend to sound and feel pretty good.
Yeah, I've played a bunch of them. I've played a bunch of Noel Gallagher's. He's got a bunch of Nash guitars, and I think they're wonderful. Simon Key says, I see that Soldano peeking out back there. Exciting. Yes. So I've got the Soldano. It's running in stereo at the moment. And I've got using the Soldano preamp, but
Was this Ville Silvola?
this is Simon Keats.
Oh, because Ville Silvola says, ooh, I hope you plug the gem into that.
Okay, go on then.
No, go on, you go first.
Okay, yeah, so this is the Soldano, and I'm going stereo and using the matchless's power as the return so the Soldano preamp is then going into the vent and the Mercury and some delay, but it's going stereo into the effects loop returns. So this is just the Soldano with the reverb. Sorry. And Fraser. So that's the dirty channel on the amp. And then we can switch over to the clean channel and you get this.
Or if you actually want to hear the clean channel without any pedals, it sounds like this.
That got the overdrive, the boosty, crunchy
so
thing.
the
on it.
clean channel's got a crunch and a clean, and that was the crunch. So even with the Strat, it crunches up really nice. We both really like it. We literally took it out of the box about
half an hour
40
before.
minutes
yeah.
ago. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Cool.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Very, 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 very.
I'm
cool.
just so excited that that works.
Yeah. Well, like we say, in the future, maybe we can do a show on a whatever day, and we'll go. Today we're going to talk about the Soldano SL030. Ask us questions, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll work.
That'll work.
Marco Barozzi. Hello, Marco, and thank you for your kindness. He says, "Yo, lads, any chance of having Tom Misch as a guest? Ferris and Sylvester are great too. London-based duo. Yeah, we have a pretty open door policy to guests. The stumbling block usually is availability and willingness, because we live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, whoever wants to come on, let us know. What we don't really have time to do is chase people around.
Yes.
I don't even have time to play the guitar. I'm saying to Dan, I played the guitar for a total of about 5 hours in the last 2 months.
Oh,
Every one of those minutes has been on this channel. So, yeah, I don't need any more admin in my life.
no.
Things are improving.
DJ Ashley, thank you, DJ. He says, I just want to say thank you. I live outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I never would have imagined that when chaos struck, I would have had to rely on two wankers in England for a sense of normalcy. Cheers to you. Thank you, DJ. That's very good of you, mate. That's very kind.
And we love you too.
Yeah, cheers,
Josh
buddy.
Casper says, speaking of victory amps, either of you played the Kotzen RK50? Been a rough few weeks, a COVID breakup. Sorry to hear that, man. You are not alone in that. There's a lot of people going through that. Houses came on for sale in my village post-COVID. Like 25 houses came on.
No way.
Yeah, there's a pretty obvious reason for most of that, isn't there?
Because people are having to live together.
Yeah. So we're sorry to hear that, Josh. Anyway, he says, have you played the Kotzen RK50? I have. I think it is a fabulous amp. It's one of my favourite amps they do, actually. And I'm not even really a gain person. But it's just that you can crank it all off the volume knob, and it's just got a rawness to it. And, if you know Kotzen's playing, that will make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Ty Roberts says, congrats of pulling the tech together to raise up TPS to the next level. Love the efforts. Keep it up. Thank you, Ty. Good on you, mate.
Jesse Later, Leite, Jesse. Anyway, Jesse says, most inspiring show on YouTube. Thank you.
Oh, bless you.
Curious, where do you fellas tend to put tremolo and chorus after your drive stages, before or after delay? Okay, tremolo, after delay, always, because of just the way you don't want the down kind of wave of the tremolo hitting the delay, otherwise nothing gets delayed.
Yep.
So you want tremolo last, and of course, traditionally speaking, that's where it would be, because the trem would be in the amp. Chorus, I think we both are the same immediately after drive.
Yeah. Yeah, first thing after drives, generally.
So drives, chorus, delay, tremolo.
Yeah.
But there's some people really prefer their modulations before drives.
Yeah.
But
It's a different sound. Like, for me, like, I generally prefer a flanger pre-drives because of the subtlety. It sort of blends a bit more into the overdrive thing. However, if there's a specific flanger sound I want, retaining all that comb filtery top end in the flanger, then I'll put it afterwards.
Yeah. Otherwise, it can get a bit much, can't it?
Yep, absolutely.
Rob Symington says, "Hope you're doing well, lads." We are, thank you, Rob, and likewise to you.
Yep.
Watched your Tone Talk episode and really enjoyed it. That Soldano in the background is looking tasty. How is it sounding so far? Watched Rabia's demo of it. It sounded unreal. Yeah, I mean, clearly it's not mine and Dan's normal thing. What I find interesting about it is, it does sound great, by the way. Soldano came to my attention being used by Clapton, Mark Knopfler.
Really?
Yeah, they all used the SLO 100 back in the day.
Wow,
It was
I
the
had
amp
no idea.
that everyone used.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't really equate it with this really super high gain thing that it seems to have become known for.
Right.
And what's interesting about Soldano's marketing is they seem to be pushing it at all the heavy gain guys. So a guy called Jamie, and I'm sorry, Jamie Shreds, I think his YouTube channel's called, who's a guy I met in the Apple store in Bath, weirdly. Anyway, he's got a YouTube channel that's very much dedicated to the heavier side of things. And we got that after him, and they've given it to Rabia, who's obviously on the heavy side of things.
Right.
But the clean and the crunch channel's
Beautiful.
really sweet.
Yeah, really, really
Needless
great.
to say, the gain channel is
And
good.
great effects loop as well.
I can't wait to hear the 100, if I'm honest,
yeah.
because I'm assuming that's more cost effective,
Okay.
and I'm assuming that the 100 is like fully hand wired and everything.
Okay.
So we'll see. I might be making an assumption there, but
Marco Montero says, "Greetings from El Paso, Texas. You guys are amazing." No, you're amazing, Marco. Thank you, buddy. And Daniel Webb says, "Hi, Hot Rod Deluxe better than a Blues Junior or just louder?"
hands down better for me.
Right.
Loads of people love the Blues Junior, and it's a really good amp. It has a very particular mid-range focus and character that the Hot Rod Deluxe doesn't have. So the Hot Rod Deluxe is more open and big, and if you like bigger, clean sounds, the Hot Rod Deluxe is definitely the one to go for. Although it does have a very kind of strident, potent mid-range, which can be hard to EQ out sometimes.
Yep.
The benefit of that is it will always be heard in a mix with that amp, in a band mix. But yeah, I would say better, but loads of people love their Blues Juniors, so it's a purely personal opinion.
Patinator37 says, "Hello from Nuremberg, Germany."
Hello, we went there.
You did indeed. I love Germany. Did you build in the mini vent with a reverse polarity cable? I ran into that issue by not respecting Vic P. Thanks, guys. So, there we go. Mini vent. If you can... So, the power here... I'll unplug this and it should be... Right. I've got the power. This is connected to a little 12-volt supply, the Supernova here. And this here is a reverse polarity connector. So the polarity of the normal cable here, this is center negative. This reverse polarity connector turns that into a center positive supply. Okay, so it's still 2.1 mil, center positive. Plug that into the mini vent. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Good to go.
Off you go. Right. Sorry, we missed a few super chats earlier, Dan, so I'm trying to revise. Thomas Mawson. Does the Tone King Imperial Mark II take pedals well?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Unreal.
I believe it's in this Friday's video. Is it, Fraser? Do we use it in this Friday's video? What are we on this week? We're on MIDI controlled pedals, aren't we? Yeah. Maybe. Anyway, it features in quite a few videos coming up. We think it's going to feature a lot at that pedal show. Yeah. It's a crackingly good amp.
Yep. Rajno0310 says, if you haven't tried the FX Engineering Mirage, you need to. Compressor for those that don't like compressors. It's on Buck Zach Childs board.
Tom Bookovac's board built by Zach Childs.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Be good to get a listen to it.
Yeah.
There's obviously a finite number of ways you can approach a compressor,
Yes,
and we certainly have our favourites.
we do indeed.
Yeah.
We do indeed.
Andrew Moore, can you please get more extra large t-shirts in stock on the website? They seem to be always out of stock every time I go to buy one, which is every fortnight. Oops. We try to stay on top of the stock. It might be that some designs get phased in and out so that we're not sitting on thousands of t-shirts. That gets expensive. But yes, we shall pass that along to Catherine,
Yes.
who will hopefully oblige. Actually, I need to live just check something on my phone.
Okay. Alistair Tweedy says, love the new streaming equipment. Thank you, Alistair. I'm on holiday this week, so getting into recording. How's the EP, Dan? Have a great week, guys. Thank you, Alistair. I'm going to see how the next couple of weeks goes, but I might have a small announcement to make regarding the EP. So, yes, just something exciting has happened.
One that I'm not aware of.
One that you're not aware of at the moment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
But yes, I've really struggled in COVID to be in the right place to record. When it all kicked off, and I had to put all the staff from Gig Rig had to work from home,
Yeah.
and we had to take a whole bunch of stock home because we thought if everything shuts down, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
ship everything from home. That didn't happen, but my little office became like my little studio just became a junk pile. Not a junk, but it was so crammed full of stuff I just couldn't move in there. But everything's been fine. Everything's been great. But it's like everyone's walking on eggshells. And I just haven't been in that right frame of mind to actually put down a performance that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
And
That whole discussion about headspace and feeling kind of in the right place, relaxed in your mind to want to make music. That's harder than having all the gear in the world, and
oh man,
because that's easy, isn't it? You
Yep.
well, it's not easy if you haven't got any cash, but you can amass a pretty respectable gear mountain,
yep,
and it still all means nothing if you're not in the mood to use it.
yep, sure,
Exhibit A.
yep. So yes, I've been having a conversation with some friends about that this week, and it's been really inspiring, and hopefully it will manifest in the near future.
Whatnot, David, I believe that's you, and it's great to hear from you again if that is you. I enjoyed your guitars run through last week. Which tellies, Dan and Strat, Mick, would you each use for different situations, or what are each of their main strengths?
So this is the 65, and I adore this guitar. I take it with me. I went away to Eton for the weekend, and I took it with me, and had like half an hour in the morning. So I would pine for it if it wasn't with me. I don't know. I remember when I first played it from when we did the show.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I just never really
Couldn't get
stopped
it out
thinking
of your head.
about it.
Isn't it funny how that happens? I mean, of the hundreds of tellies you've played in your life,
Yeah.
that one's like... that
Yeah, it just
goes-
connected with me, and it's a 65. So it's not even pre-CBS.
Oh, it
It's
is.
sort of crossover
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this guitar for me, I pretty much can do everything. However, there are things that Red can do that I've literally not heard any other Telecaster do. It's something so...
Red's an extraordinary guitar.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and I've done so many gigs on that thing that I can... Red's probably the most flexible, because this is just vintage telly twang through and through, right? But Red, I can probably do most things on Red. But Butters is different again.
Yeah.
It just has that scoopy...
Sometimes it can just be about mood, actually. So,
Yeah,
for
totally.
example, I've tried to get Blue in the kind of quintessential mid-strat point,
Right.
where it just does everything, and that's kind of what I want. But then some days I might want it more twangy and stratty, so I'll go to Transit Van, which has got a slightly smaller neck, and I'll have that maybe with some lighter strings on and with the bridge floating. So it feels different. The maple neck reverse headstock one has got a totally different mid-range character. and just puts me immediately in Jimmy mode.
Yeah.
And then the Mayo one is probably the strattiest sounding of the lot. It's got the most mid scoop.
I love that guitar.
So you've just got to, I think it's about knowing the guitars well enough and having the confidence to use them for what they want to do rather than trying to make it do what you want to do. I've always felt that way about guitars. You've got to do what it wants to do, really. So, yeah.
Edvard796 says, Mick, ever considered paring down your collection to fund the vintage Strat you've always wanted? I recently did this, and so far, so good.
Yeah, I did. And I've very nearly, hang on, I've got a very important life event happening today, and Catherine is keeping me updated.
Okay, everything good?
Yeah, everything's fine. And we can get to Top Mish, apparently.
Oh, cool.
He knows Jake and Joe.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so that's all good. Not a serious life event, by the way. My car is being collected by someone who's taking it back.
Right.
So don't worry, it hasn't been repossessed. I've changed my car, and he's the guy that comes around and decides how much reaming I'm going to get. So, but he couldn't make it earlier.
River.
Then I had to come here. So poor Catherine has had to go back and do it. So it's just one of those. I don't know. You try having a blooming YouTube channel in a life. It's impossible.
It is impossible. Eagle Ray Rob says those amps.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the question.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I have thought about it, and funnily enough, just when I got the 61, which is not here, which isn't for sale, unfortunately, I was talking a lot to Mike at ATB, and I was going to take out a bank loan and just buy one, and then I thought, it's insane. I don't play the guitar enough. So I decided against it. If I was in a band and recording music and actually being creative with it, I think I would do it.
Right.
But I don't play the guitar, really, which is very sad, apart from on this here channel. So
that's very sad.
Yeah, but again, it's life.
It is life.
Yeah.
Eagle Ray Rob says, those amps sounded great. Well done on the new streaming gear and great playing. Thank you, Eagle Ray. That's very kind.
I want to answer this. EJ Wright, my question is, why can't Mick bring it upon himself to say that cheap guitars are good? I totally can.
Absolutely.
I've got a Mexican Strat, which is good. I've got this Supro, which is good. But if you think they're as good as expensive guitars, they're not.
Yeah.
Not universally. You might pick up a Squier Strat, for example, that you absolutely bond with and love. And you might pick up a custom shop, which you really hate.
Yep.
And it's just about the individual guitar. But cheap guitars in general usually don't have a nitrocellulose finish, which I'm not a fan of purely from an aesthetic point of view. They usually have less exacting materials selection, which doesn't mean worse. It just means lower chance of getting one that you're really going to connect with.
Right.
So I do think they're good. But when you've dined in the best restaurants your whole life, your whole professional life, and then somebody takes you to Burger King, you're like, this is good. This is all right.
Yeah.
I enjoy this, and it makes me happy. But it's not fine dining.
No, it isn't. And
sorry if that sounds whatever, but.
Yeah, and then you break a 7-year streak of not having McDonald's, and then you break that, and then you feel awful and sort of sick for a while. But I'm not speaking from experience. David Burke says, I want to come on the show and won't cause any admin issues, just so long as you promise not to film me or especially not record me playing guitar. David Burke, done. Actually,
yes.
we are working on something.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We want to do something that we're loosely terming experience days. So where small groups of people can come here and we'll do things that are interesting and informative and educational.
We get so many comments about, Mick and I are in this really fortunate position where we can get the amps working and playing these great guitars, and actually, in this environment, we're so very fortunate to do that. And a lot of people just don't have the opportunity to do that. A lot of people have never really plugged in, a great valve amp. And so the idea is that we're going to give people the opportunity to come and hang out and just experience.
Just hear it in the flesh, yeah.
Yeah, experience what that's like. I think that I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll be great fun. We got 1,100 people watching us right
Oh
now.
my god, we're
Isn't that amazing?
trying to keep up, guys.
Sam Johnson says, watching you two play all your guitars until 2 a.m. with my BFF, just amazing. Please buy more so that I can live vicariously. That Supro and that Gretsch. And then he says, ugh, he makes a noise.
It was pretty special.
Very special. The Supro sounded so good. The down-tune thing on the Supro.
Ed Bromiel, I love this question. Ed says, hi guys, I love Saturday's episode. I once had an Epiphone Les Paul that was so middly, I used it for a Fender Rhodes sound. Have you ever enjoyed a guitar because it didn't sound like a guitar? I've definitely used funky sounding guitars because they sound weird. Like one is my, which isn't here, my Telly, which, because I'm an idiot, the pickups are out of phase.
Right.
So, and then in the middle you get that out of phase sound and it just sounds honky and weird and nasty, and I really like that. So that would be the closest I've come to it.
I will set up sounds that don't sound anything like guitar, and I find them really inspiring. And it's a great way to break free of an artistic rut, because in that situation you are led by the sound. You can play things that you're normally very comfortable playing, but because it sounds so far removed from what you're used to hearing, the sound leads you in different directions. And that's been, one of the things I love about pedals to start with, is it can be, just altering a sound a certain way can lead you off in a certain direction that you wouldn't have gone there naturally.
Yeah, it's once again, it's that no better or worse or best or anything. It's just knowing what's available and being able to draw on it in a time where you might need a bit of extra inspiration or a push in a different direction.
Yep. Matt Wright says, hi fellas, inspired by your video on Dan's matchless amp. I love everything Neil Finn. Good man. But I can't afford an SC30. Thoughts on a matchless Spitfire, a Morgan AC20, or divided by 13? Would any get me close?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I actually think in that lot, probably the Spitfire. The AC20 is really good. Divided by 13 is great. Divided by 13 for me is a bit... The sounds I've heard from the Divided by 13, the mid is in a different spot, and can also get mid scoopy as well, which is a sound you really struggle to get on the matchless.
I've only ever heard one, actually, the Divided by 13.
And they're great. Actually, Lyle Workman uses Divided by 13 amplifiers, and his sound is just incredible. But they're all really good. One thing that the matchless has, when we did the show on the EL84 amplifiers, and there's some really wonderful sounding amps, and then the matchless came on the end, and there's almost this sub thing you don't really hear but you feel that the mattress has got. And it's something that as soon as I first heard that, I was done. And if that's what you're connected to with the matchless, I would say, it's really hard. If you need an amplifier, you can't afford a mattress, so you want something with that flavour, then any of those amps will do great. If you can hang on for a bit and save a few extra pounds and try and find a second-hand one.
Yeah, pick one up used.
Pick one up used. Then, I'll never get rid of that amplifier, and I'll have that at every gig I ever play.
It's another thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really
that said,
wonderful.
The Morgan AC20 is a
Morgan AC20 is killer.
Fabulous amp.
Yep.
And I'm sure there are others. You should really check out some stuff by
Zvex.
Dr. Z.
Dr. Z, that's right, yeah. Yeah, their stuff's great.
Like the Maz 18 is pretty special. Yeah, probably a step back towards Vox a bit.
Yeah.
I've always thought your matchless is to an AC30 what my 2-Rock is to a Super Reverb.
Yes,
It's not the same thing at all.
It's not the same thing, no.
But it is definitely descended from it.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. That's a great analogy. Ryan Crawley says, "Hi Dan, finally got better after 3 weeks of COVID infection. Really great.
That's good to hear.
Great to hear, mate. I just got my wet dry wet set up with a G2 and love it. You guys are the best guitar show on YouTube. Be safe." That's very kind. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, mate. That's very kind.
Personal idea. Rules for connecting multiple pedals to a single PSU output. Rule 1.
Don't do
Don't
it.
do it. I thought
Rule 2, see rule 1.
Yeah, I thought as long as the milliamps, volts, and polarity all made sense, I was golden. Is it best to keep analog and digital apart and match milliamp draws? If you absolutely have to do it, yes, keep the analog and digital apart, but it won't make any difference if the ground
it's joined
if they're
together.
not isolated.
Yeah.
You'll click your overdrive on and you'll think your overdrive's creating a load of problems, but it's not. It's one of your digital pedals. It's picking up high, awful, nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, unfortunately, it's one of those things that no one likes to spend money on because it doesn't, give you any sound. But investing in a good power supply is one of the best investments that you'll make for your pedal board because it can make all the difference in the world.
It makes all the difference. Nick Wilson, Jamie Slays, do you mean? I do indeed mean Jamie Slays.
Jamie Slays, right.
Check out Jamie Slays on YouTube. And Jules Music says, have you already played Joey's Golden Boy? Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. It's on next week's show?
Maybe this Friday's show.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay, awesome.
Yeah, along with the Chase Bliss Automatone.
Hello, ladies.
It's really good. I really like the Golden Boy, I have to say.
Yeah, Golden Boy's lovely.
And that's from someone who is not a massive fan of multiple modes and things that I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's very good. Jeffrey Ridd, thank you, mate. That's very kind.
Oh my God. Baby John, hi guys. On the subject of Soldano and the sad loss of Peter Green, how have we got this far without mentioning Peter Green?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this without it sounding whatever, but people pass all the time, and you feel different ways about it. I had a tear in my eye when I read that yesterday. People are born and they die. It's what happens, right? So no one should be surprised by that. But I met Peter, and it was one interview for Guitarist, and he was playing in Worthing, I think it was. And I walked in, and he was playing Albatross with the band, and it was the new band with Nigel, I think the guy's name was, and all the new band when he kind of got back into playing.
Yeah.
And it was mesmerising. He played it like out of this world.
Really?
It's just beautiful. And then we did the interview, and he's really funny because Peter obviously had some mental health issues following his experience with drugs earlier in his life, blah, blah, blah. He became a recluse, didn't play for many years and all that. And so he'd almost become institutionalised in his own behaviour.
Right.
So he almost knew how to use it in a way. It felt a bit like that to me. So he'd be telling you the most lucid story about something, and then you'd ask him a slightly thorny one, and he'd be like, oh, I don't know, I can't remember, my mind's not what it was. And he'd sort of lean back on it a bit, and I loved him for that. Anyway, come the gig, he didn't play it, Nigel played it, because I think he was probably in and out of how confident he felt.
Okay.
And then people tell me that as time went on, that confidence just came back and back and back.
Okay.
And but what just such a gentle, lovely human being.
Can you tell the cheese story?
My friend Ben Bartlett was interviewing him once, and it's really weird when you interview someone. You sort of have a bit of preamble where you talk about nothing, just to, I don't know, get the ball rolling. And they were talking about cheese. And Pete was talking about cheese. And
I love this.
Ben says, oh, what's your favourite cheese then? And Peter says, oh, cheddar. I'm a cheddar man. And Peter says to Ben, what's your favourite cheese? He's like, oh, Gorgonzola. He's like, Gorgonzola? That's a mug's cheese. I don't know. Maybe you had to be there, but bless him.
I love it. That's great.
All the respect to Peter Green and for everything he did. For everything he did, he was one of the true greats.
Yep.
And it's very sad that he has gone. Go listen to some early Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. Okay, Daniel Webb says, Morgan claimed that overdrive pedals are designed to interact with the amplifier at or near the point at which it begins to break up. Is this true? You run into amps clean with loads of headroom. So it all depends on, every amp has its own character. To say running on at the edge of breakup, what does that mean? Edge of breakup with what guitar and at what volume? What's breaking up? Is it preamp? Is it the speakers?
What's the curve of that breakup? That's one thing.
Yeah.
Breakup isn't... Is there a Sharpie somewhere there, Fraser? That's might be one in the top drawer. Sorry, Dan, please.
Yeah, so the like for example, take a high watt. Now, high watt's one of the best pedal platforms, ever. It's incredible. However, if you depending on how you run it, the speakers that you're using, it all sounds completely different. If you stick something like one of Pete Cornish's overdrive pedals into a high watt, it's going to sound absolutely epic. If you run I don't know, like an SD1 or something into it, you're going to hear every little edge of that SD1, and it might not sound awesome. But you plug an SD1 into a Creighton Marshall, and it's going to sound amazing. It just depends on what you're going for, and how the amp interacts with the gain staging of the pedal, how the pedal interacts with the gain staging of the amplifier.
Exactly that.
Yep.
We had a really good good conversation with Dave Friedman about this, actually, because inevitably the pedal or amp distortion question came up in our tone talk with them.
Right.
And we said, well, you might be surprised to hear we agree with you. Yeah, amp distortion is
Awesome.
preferable to pedal distortion in most cases. Didn't mention overdrive, that's a different thing. Right, this could be one type of amp breakup, right? Where it goes clean, distorted. So you're clean and then you're distorted. It might look like this, where there's a bit more of a knee on it. And you go clean, and then it breaks up, and it breaks up, and it breaks up, and then it's distorted. If it's my 2-rock, it does this.
Right.
And it just goes, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. And depending on what amp you've got, you might find that the magic point for adding your pedal is here, or here, or here, or here.
Yep.
Or more to the point, different pedals, here, and here,
Yep.
and here,
Yep.
and here. So this kind of, the idea that, I mean, it is true that Dan and I tend to like amps with a lot of headroom, but a lot of headroom doesn't necessarily mean
Clean. Yeah.
what it means is, what does it mean?
It means dynamics.
Dynamic and a gradual breakup.
Yeah.
And the glorious place is where the amp and the pedal are working in harmony.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's why Dan has always said pedals have no sound, because the pedal is just reacting to the amp and the guitar, and it's about finding that magic little spot.
Yep. Totally.
I've really learned that, actually, since I've had the 2-rock. And when I first got that amp, I didn't really understand that in the way that I understand it now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is probably the best guitar amp I've ever heard. But I remember when you first got it, and it took you a little while to find your feet with it.
Still, I mean, I'm still finding my feet with it.
Yeah.
All these years later. That's a great thing, you know. People treat amps like make louder boxes, but they're no different from guitars in the fact that they're proper musical instruments.
Absolutely. Yep. Sebastian Schlappeflack says, "Hey guys, any more bass episodes planned? I'd love to hear your take on distortion specifically for bass." We had Paul Turner coming in just before COVID kicked off, so Paul Turner, Rob Harris, we're both going to come in, and yeah, I know those guys, love them dearly, they're amazing. Paul Turner, the way he uses effects is inspired.
Yeah.
So that'll happen as soon as we can. You know,
and we would
make
need to
merry.
do it with a bass player, because Dan and my knowledge of that is
Yep.
rudimentary. HRJ1411 says, I think I can get the 2 outputs from a Boss DM2 Wazzer into an Iridium using a Y cable.
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
How could I get the 2 outputs from a Boss CE2 Wazzer into the DM2 Wazzer?
So that won't work, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
the DM2 is mono input. So, for example, if we go back to the pedal board here, Fraser, there we go. So you notice I've got 2 stereo pedals here. I've got the mini vent and I've got the Mercury 7. So what I'll do, let me just play that for 2 seconds so that you can hear them. So this is, we'll go clean. Okay, now, normally I would have the vent after the reverb. I like that being the last thing. But unfortunately, the vent has got a mono input, stereo output, whereas the Mercury 7 has got a stereo input via a TRS cable. So I've got the mono input into the vent, stereo out into the stereo input of the Mercury 7, stereo outputs going to the power amp returns of the amplifier. So I'm using one preamp, using the Soldana preamp, and that's hitting the matchless power amp return and the power amp return of the Soldano. So yeah, because of the mono input of the vent, I can't have it at the end. You know, because of the stereo reverb, I've got to have the stereo reverb after the vent. So that's the problem that you've got. You've only got a mono input on the delay.
Yes, so if you were to do it, and if you were to use some other gizmo to sum those two outputs, you're basically just summing them back together and hitting the front of the CE2
Exactly.
with that, which doesn't really work. Once you split the signal, it's got to stay split.
Yep. Otherwise, you just something back in.
What else could you do?
Have two delays.
Yeah.
And run them in parallel.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. The question is, do you want to run stereo or wet dry? Because if you want to run wet dry, you're golden.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
You just put the wet effects on one half of the split and the dry effects on the other, and that will give you a cracking sound.
Awesome, love that. Mikke Johansson says, put this towards the coming Novo, right? Would love a Novo. Yeah, Dennis Fano. It's really funny, actually. I played a few Fano guitars and thought they were great. I think the Novo guitars are at a different level, personally. I think they just, something about them that just
they're
really connects.
Really great.
Actually, I saw Johnny Kincaid this week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So check out the new nut on the telly.
Oh, he's put the new nut on. Very
Yeah.
nice.
And isn't that beautiful?
Sorted the
found a
string
really
spacing
old,
out.
Found a really old bit of bone.
Yeah.
And he had a Novo there, and now Johnny's, he's seen every guitar under the sun. He was like, "Have you seen these guitars?" I'm like, yeah, the Novo, they're great because they're amazing. The big pine body. So if Johnny likes them, it's you're on a good wicket. So yes, would love a Novo.
Matthew, hi guys, I'm thinking of buying a Vox AC30 hand-wired. Have you guys played this amp? If so, what do you think? I have.
What do you think?
I can't say I preferred it to the standard custom classic.
Right.
But
the custom classic's really
or
good.
classic custom, or whatever
the
the
CC
standard one is.
Yeah.
But then I wasn't stood there A-Bing them or anything. And what I really like about the modern AC30s is the master volume.
Yeah.
Because unless you can, and I don't believe the handwired has a master volume, but I could be wrong because they do change them frequently. One would assume that if you can crank that thing, then the handwired one is going to be great. But what I love about the standard one is just that you can get really nice drive tones at sensible volume.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that AC30, the modern reissue one.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
Matt Presley says, Dan, being a telly aficionado, is compensated saddle upgrade worth it? Especially for capo playing. I have the kit from Goto and I wonder if it's worth the hassle. So the biggest thing for me with the compensated saddles is, or any other saddles, on the 63, it came with these, so this 65, but it came with the same sort of saddles as this has got. This has got the, what do you call those? The threaded, like a screw, I don't even know what you call them. But they're like steel.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. Threaded.
Thread,
yeah. You would call them.
But there's something about, they had the same ones on when I first got Red. And I tried a bunch of different ones because I was breaking some strings, but nothing. As soon as I changed it, it changed the sound.
Yeah.
The issue I had...
Well, also bear in mind they're made of steel, aren't they?
Yes, they're made of steel.
Whereas the standard telly ones are brass.
Brass. Yeah. But I tried different steel ones. I spent a small fortune trying saddles out.
Yeah.
And nothing sounded like these ones. The issue that I had was when I tried to play... let's try, when I was doing this, over it. and horrifically out of tune, right? Because these are the standard saddles. And I was trying to, because we used to play that song in the band, and everything would be fine. But as soon as I got to play that, I was like, oh no! So I had to find some compensated saddles on the telly that worked, and I found these tungsten saddles.
Titanium.
The titanium. Yes, titanium. Yes. And then I put those on and solved all those problems. I could actually play that and it would be in tune. But you can hear so the guitar's in tune, but as soon as I go here, it's like every note is out.
Yeah.
You know?
See, that is where you pick up a different guitar for that song, isn't it?
Yeah, but
times 18 songs in the set.
Yeah, but so you know, but so it depends on if you're just down here and you're occasionally going, then you don't necessarily need it. But if you're doing complicated stuff up here and everything needs to be in tune, it's absolutely worth it.
It's tough, isn't it? Down there, you can bend it into tune.
Yeah.
But up there, I find it harder.
Definitely.
Calvin Hoyer, Mick, what's your advice on playing mint vintage Strats? I have a 64 Fiesta and I'm struggling to make the transition to playing it. I'm too afraid to scratch it. Feel obliged to preserve it. Oh, man. That's the problem with vintage guitars. It's wonderful that you have it and it's really great, but unfortunately, if you want to keep it as a museum piece, then you can't play it.
Yeah.
And that just sucks. But why did you buy it? Did you buy it to keep as a museum piece, hang on your wall and tell all your mates you've got a 64 Strat and hand down to your kids? If the answer is yes, stick it on the wall, don't play it. If you bought it because you want to play that guitar and it will change your life, then play it.
Totally.
And knock a load of money off the value.
This is such an interesting conversation to have because actually there was a question about this before about, you know, expensive guitars and things. I can remember when I was looking at the Nick Huber guitars, and I remember playing an Orca, and I was terrified to play it.
Well,
it was so beautiful.
We have a question that actually came in on the comments that I really wanted to address, which is all about this. So we'll do that in a sec.
It was so beautiful. I was almost scared to play it.
Yeah.
But the Crafter 2, I'll try it. It's got massive dings in it now.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and it's got the thinnest paint on there I've ever seen. You know, look at it wrong, it falls off. But I'm not scared to.
What you could do, Calvin, is if you're struggling with this and you really don't want to play it, and you can't afford to just stick it on the wall and have it as an heirloom to leave to your kids or whatever it is you want to do, sell it to a collector who wants mint guitars for top dollar, because that's what you've got, and buy a couple of players.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry if we've ruined your 64 Strat. 64 Strat in Fiesta Red. Oh my God, holy grail guitar. Congratulations.
Yeah,
what
incredible.
a fantastic thing.
Incredible.
Just going to do one more before we hit the Anderson Moraes Fransato. So we'll go for Anderson. Thank you. Mick, years ago you tested a Dumble. Now you have for a long time the awesome, to say the least, 2-Rock. Would you exchange the 2-Rock for the Dumble that you tested? Right. If it were about so I could sell the Dumble and buy more 2-Rocks, yes. Absolutely I would.
Right.
For the pure sound of the amp, it's a very different thing. So that was an overdrive special. My 2-Rock isn't that. It's very different. 2-Rock do an amp called a TS1, the Tone Secret one, which is more like the overdrive special. I thought that's what I wanted from a guitar amp. It turns out it really isn't.
Right.
This is what I want, the classic reverb signature. Yes, I would rather play that than that Dumble that day. It was a phenomenally aggressive, like insert every adjective here, but it was a 112 combo.
Really?
Yeah.
For the EV?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It was a crazy thing. I'm pretty sure it was an EV. Unless it was one of the Altec Lansing jobs. Anyway, amazing amp, and I'm sure you'd bond with it after a while. But genuinely, hands down, that is the best guitar amp I have ever played. Yep. And, you know, purely personal opinion.
Yep. Matthew Anderson, thanks Matthew, he says, "G'day lads, thanks to Dan's salesmanship weeks ago, I got a V140 at last. running it wet dry with my Origin 50 head
Very
cab.
nice.
Absolute heaven.
What a great amp that is.
My Fuzz Factory and Avalanche run never sounded so good. Thank you for all you do. Mate, you're so welcome. I promise you I'll never try and say you anything. It's just that when I heard that V140,
Yeah.
I remember hearing Joey playing it.
Yeah.
And it was such a... You could tell he was so connected to that thing. It just sounds awesome amplifier.
If I'm not using that, I'm using that.
Yeah, great.
It's,
Really great
It's
amp.
a super amp.
Yeah.
Right, Stevie
Well done.
Moon. Stevie Moon sent us what I thought was a brilliant question over the comments over the weekend, and I wanted to address this because we've touched on it, and I'll try and do it quickly because there's quite a lot of parts to it. Anyway, he says, I have a genuine wondering, but I can't find a way to say it where I don't sound grumpy, judgmental, or annoyed.
Okay.
Perhaps I'm all of those three. Yeah, me too, mate. I'm. Welcome to my world.
You're not annoyed.
I really enjoyed the Friday video about all of your guitars. What did you say?
I said, you're not annoyed. Sorry.
So, part one. Why do you hold on to all the guitars that you simply don't get on with? Dan's Fender American Original Jag, the Nick Huber, the Grey Guitars Admiral. Is there a great deal of money in the... No, there is a great deal of money in those instruments, so why keep them? Is it because you were given them for free and are not permitted to sell them? We do get given guitars, for sure, and I've been given guitars over the years that I wouldn't sell, not because you're not permitted to sell it, but because when somebody gives you a guitar, there's sort of a gentleman's agreement that you, or indeed a person's agreement, that you wouldn't sell that guitar. You might give it to somebody else with the person. If somebody gave you the guitar, you might say, look, I'm really not with this guitar. I'll either send it back to you, or with your permission, I'll give it to somebody else who will absolutely love it. I do that with pedals sometimes, and I have done it with guitars. The American Original Jag we bought fair and square.
Yep.
Just ponied up and bought that. And I think that's going to be a really good guitar with some... it just needs...
It needs something.
Some time.
Because it did sound great.
Yeah.
Yep. And it just, for whatever reason, I don't connect with it. However, that whole idea with the show on Friday, we wanted you to hear all the guitars that we've got, but there's a reason that we have them, and they all do a specific thing. Like the Nick Huber, I love that guitar. Actually, it was the other guitar I had when we did TPS Live.
Yeah, yeah.
That was one of the other guitars I had because I got so... I used that as opposed to the Les Paul because I could use it for a number of things, and it's an amazing guitar.
See, that's really important. I wanted to say that some of the guitars that we don't necessarily use on the show a lot get used in other environments.
Yeah.
So my Collins 360 LT, for example, I don't play it on the show much, but it pretty much always goes live.
Yeah.
And Dan's Huber. So yeah, hopefully that. Also, your reason for owning a guitar might not always be because it's the best sounding thing in the world. It might have a sentimental attachment, or it might mean something to you in a way that's not necessarily about playing it, which sounds insane, but it's true. And as I say, with the Jaguar, we are going to get that to a sweet place.
Yeah.
I did a load of reading on Jazz Masters and Jaguars over the weekend.
Oh, did you?
Actually. Yeah,
Good on you, mate.
Interesting. Right, so that's that. And then he goes on to say, Stevie Moon goes on to say, there's a perception about boutique manufacturers that should not go on unnoticed. We're led to believe that builders like Huber or Egel represent the very best of the best, yet I can't think of a single guitarist who plays them.
Okay.
That's an interesting observation, even for those for whom money isn't an issue and don't play them. So who are they for? Those of us for whom a regular Gibson Les Paul standard is a serious amount of money might think that a Nick Huber Orca, for example, and I think you could add Collings whatever, PRS whatever, which is about 3 times the price, is even better. Yet those who have stacks of cash still buy the Les Paul over the Huber. So what's going on? He says, I can imagine spending $6,000 on a Huber only to get it and then to want to swap the pickups out. It blows my mind. I can only conclude from all of this that Sir, LSL, Tom Anderson, SVL, etc. don't make better guitars, or Huber, or Egel, or Collings, or Nags, and yet they charge significantly more, which is strange.
Okay.
It's
very interesting.
It's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it ties in with what Dan was saying earlier. One of the, if you know much about guitars and you've had the privilege to look a lot of guitars, if you pick up a Huber next to a standard production line Les Paul, there is the world of difference.
There really is.
And Collings, you know, I don't think anybody makes a better factory-made guitar than Collings. I think they are so head and shoulders above pretty much anything anybody makes that isn't like, you know,
Yeah.
some custom dude doing his thing.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe we could put Tom Anderson in that camp, and certainly we could put Nick Huber in there, and maybe there are a handful of others, but they really are head and shoulders in terms of how they are made and the selection of materials in a different league.
Yep.
The next question is, does it make any difference whatsoever to how you connect with it or the tone it can make?
Yep.
And that's exactly what you're saying, because, you know, 59 Les Paul Standard, not exactly the best made guitar in the world.
Yeah, right.
You know, factory made, and maybe Gibsons were a little bit better than Fenders. Bolted together
Yeah.
by production line workers with some skill.
Yep.
Hardly guitar making craft.
Yeah.
And yet these are the sounds that have defined rock and roll down the years.
Yep.
So
Totally.
the question is it better or worse? There's no such thing.
No.
I don't think there's. It's just it's what the instrument means to you.
Totally. Yeah. So, like for example, when this is a 65 guitar. Now, I wouldn't have paid the money I paid for this guitar if it didn't have Fender on the headstock.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, could have been the exact same guitar. Without that, it's like
Because you have an emotional connection to it.
exactly.
Yeah,
I wanted a real one because I know, you know, the history of Fender, and when we're in LA and driving down where it was all happening and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's a part of rock and roll history. However, so you know, that's that guitar. But with something like the Huber, you know, when I play that, it's such a delight to play, and it sounds so great. I will. You know, I'm recording with that, and like the Skipper, for example, the grey Skipper.
Somebody
know,
else before, what pickups are in that?
The Radio Shop.
Radio Shop.
Yep. It's, you know, they're not Fenders. That's not a Gibson, but they are amazing guitars, and they perform. They fill a need, perform a certain function.
Yeah.
Like that's the offset that I want to play. That's the Skipper is the way I want an offset to feel. I want an offset to sound.
Yeah.
And because I don't, if my main guitar was an offset, then I'd probably want like a Fender. You know?
Yeah. That's it, isn't it? Because we were talking about this earlier. Nobody buys a Les Paul because it's the best guitar in the world.
Yeah.
You buy a Les Paul because Jimmy Page played one.
Yeah.
Or you know, who insert.
That's
guitar,
a really good point.
Guitar player here. Slash has sold probably as many Les Pauls as Les Paul did.
Yep.
So yeah, and finally on price, I just wanted to say, you know, you're talking about a Huber being 6 times the price or 3 times the price of a Les Paul.
Yep.
It's about 2 things. One, some cost of materials, right? So smaller makers can't buy in the volume that the big makers can buy in. Plus, their selection criteria is usually not just a little bit higher, but way higher.
Oh yeah.
And as you know, with the law of diminishing marginal returns, 10% better usually means 100% more expensive. So that's number one. Number two, it's person hours.
Yep.
If you go to somewhere like Nick's place or Collings, and you see how many hours, individual human hours, go into each one of those instruments.
It's crazy.
And of course, you know, whether it's Nick building it or somebody else, or, you know, production line workers, it's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in. That, I'll just say again, that might not result in a guitar that you like anymore.
Sure.
It might not,
sure.
but it definitely has a massive knock-on to what you end up paying for the thing. So, yeah, if value for money is your
Just motivating factor.
arbiter,
Yeah.
then there is a reason that Gibson Les Paul standards and Fender standard Strats cost what they do.
Yep.
You know,
So-
because that's what they're aimed at.
Nick Huber's a really good example. Like his facility, the guys that got working for him, he can make, I think it's 300 guitars a year. That's the maximum number of guitars. You know, they've done all the math and to make it work. they've tried to up their production because
Yeah.
they're very really popular guitars, but it doesn't work. It's like, no, to make this work, we can do 300 guitars a year, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's Fender must do that an hour. you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, Taylor were building like
Taylor,
180
yes.
guitars a day or
Yeah, it's
something. weren't they?
great, just
something insane.
unbelievable.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what we think about that. And sure, boutique guitars aren't for everybody, but there does. If you have played a lot of guitars over your life and you have been in this weirdly privileged position as Dan and I have, maybe more so me in that sense from doing guitar magazines all those years, you do start to see things you can't unsee.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's where my love of Collings guitars comes from.
Yeah. I've got anyone that saw the video we did with Johnny Kincaid will know that I've got one of his guitars on order, and I'm still a year away from that. But once I played that, Mick was down there and heard it, and it is that thing. It's like, for that OM style thing, for me, it's the best example of that I've ever heard.
And Johnny, and
I know exactly. I know
care
Johnny.
about
I
him
know
and-
how much. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
how
yeah.
much he cares.
it all means something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
On the
yeah.
subject of which, Carl Longbottom got in touch earlier and said, thanks for featuring his guitars on Friday's show. For those, if you haven't watched it, Carl sent us a couple of really interesting S&T style guitars, but that have this unusual construction where it's a hollowed out piece of English ash, I think, with a mahogany centre section.
Beautiful.
And Carl's not a guitar builder as such, even though Dan pointed out these are one of the only hand-built from scratch guitars we own. And Carl's got such a lot of great feedback over the weekend from the show. He's actually going to make some guitars.
Yeah,
So
that's so good.
thanks, Carl. Thanks for
Yeah.
sending them in, and congrats, because that I've seen people make guitars before and they didn't look like that.
David Rustad says, I just got Texas Flood on vinyl and looked at the painted portrait of Stevie Ray on the cover. When it's vinyl size, it becomes clear it's a picture of Mick because it doesn't look much like Stevie Ray. It's Mick T.
Bless you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Elias Torheden says Dark Arts Toneworks or Dwarfcraft pedals to make an appearance someday. If you have got a pedal builder that you really like and you want to get them on the show, get in touch with the pedal builder and get them to get in touch with us. That's the easiest way to do it. All the contact details are on the website, but it's an open door. If a pedal builder wants to send us some stuff and have us play, we'd love to. By all means, give them a shout.
Right. I'm just trying to go back through the super chats and see what we've missed. We were
Dallas Williamson. Thank you, Dallas. He says, hi, fellas. Looking to overhaul tubes on my Mesa Tremo Verb combo, which is a great amplifier. Do you recommend replacing with Mesa tubes, or do you prefer other brands that you're willing to recommend? Looking to have both 6L6 and EL34s at the ready.
I do recommend Mesa tubes,
Right.
for the reason that Mesa bias their amps in a slightly different way to most other, or certainly amps of that period, where on most, we'll call it adjustable fixed bias, right? So your standard Marshall or Fender, you buy new tubes and then you poke around inside. You do not poke around inside. A tech pokes around inside and adjusts the bias for those tubes. Mesa amps are slightly different. They're set to a bias range, which I guess can be adjusted, but it's set. And then all of the Mesa tubes you buy will fit that bias range.
Right.
So
Oh, wow.
that's why buying Mesa tubes is a good idea for Mesa
So you don't
amps.
need to take it to a tech to get it
Correct.
zeroed in. I had no idea. That's
Correct.
really great.
Now, I don't know if that's still the case, but it certainly was the case for a long time.
Right.
So you could just buy the Mesa tubes and swap them out, put them in.
Brilliant.
And that got quite a lot of criticism from various amp techs because they don't like doing it that way. But for that reason, yes, if you buy other tubes, you might find that it's a bit more of a hassle to get it biased.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Renan Silva. That's very generous. Cheers, mate. Jonathan Burton says, cheers, chappies. Touch sensitivity is my favourite thing, but sustain is a close second. So compressors make me giddy while sad. Any favourites, ideas as a boost into a drive maybe, or after? Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to do a show on this because there's the longer that we've done the show, there's quite a few subjects that we are going to revisit, compressors being one of them. I've just been playing around with limiters as opposed to compressors. And I think what a lot of people they're looking for in a compressor is that they're actually looking for a limiter. Yeah.
Union Tube and Transistor Lab.
Boom.
Spectacular sounding thing.
Yep.
Origin Effects Cali 76. Absolutely spectacular. If you're already down the compressor road and you haven't tried either of those, please do. If you're new to compressors, they might be a little bit overkill, but it sounds like you're in the game well enough already. Renan Silver did actually have a question. Hi Renan. Guys, what are your thoughts on the discontinued Victory hand-wired line, especially the V50? Do you think there's a huge difference compared to the ones available now? So, for anyone not aware, most modern amps are constructed on a printed circuit board. Either a machine or a human populates the boards with parts, and then it's soldered, little things, millions of them, and that's how that happens. Back in the day, what you would have typically in a Marshall or a Fender is some sort of thicker, bigger board, either with eyelets or little turrets sticking up, and the parts were soldered between these big posts or eyelets. So obviously you could get less stuff in there. The amps were simpler. The modern PCB way of manufacturing is much quicker, much more efficient, much cheaper, and actually not necessarily cheaper. It depends on what scale you're doing it. But most of all, much more consistent.
Yes.
So that's a brief overview of PCB and hand-wired. Some hand-wired amps don't have any circuit boards, like that one and that one. Actually, that's got half a one. Where the components are literally point-to-point connected without a circuit board. However, the V50 that you're talking about was like a turret board style construction. Might have been eyelet anyway, had a board in there. And yeah, personally, from my end, it's a bit like when we did those pedals, the hand-wired pedals. Reeves Electro pedals. You might not necessarily hear it, but you will feel it.
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person who likes that absolute connectivity, in the moment, visceral experience, yeah, I think the V50 was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
If that scares you a bit and you don't like playing that way and you like things a little easier,
controlled,
then you may well prefer the other route. It's not always the case.
Yeah.
And certainly when you get into high gain, I don't think it's the case at all. But there's some of those clean to in-between sounds in a properly hand-wired amp are, in my opinion, otherworldly.
Yeah.
But, you know, Victory discontinued them because nobody bought them.
Yeah, right.
Because everyone's going, well, why do I have to pay, you know, all this for this hand-wired amp when I can get all these features and more in all of these other amps that cost half the price?
Yeah.
But
one thing with the hand-wired amps as well is that, you know, when they're testing the amp out, they can make changes. You know, if they think, okay, this we might need to beef up the like the filter capacitors or whatever. Those sorts of things, you know, when in the testing phase, are really easy to get right if they just got to tweak the amp, tune the amp a bit. But the PCB thing is, that's it. That's what you're getting. And you know, most of the amplifiers done like that are designed with a certain tolerance and to be, you know, they're going to come out exactly the same.
What I don't like about that process is there are manufacturers who'll design it up on a board, hand wire it, and then transfer that to PCB.
Yeah.
Victory do not do that. They design from the PCB in the first place. But you know.
Dan Hansen says, your new setup sounds and looks great. Cheers, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Here's a little something for your VCQ graphics budget.
Bless you.
I've been joyfully lost in your video library. My rig has never sounded or played better. Thank you. That's awesome, Dan. You're so welcome, mate.
It's my life event.
Nico Yellow Dog, thank you, Nico. That's very kind of you. Yashir Henriquez. Cheers, mate. That's awesome.
Oh, Yashir had a question.
Okay. Okay.
And the question is, sorry, my wife's texting me. Catherine is texting me questions
her.
that we're missing. What are your choices for a Univibe in the range of like a Vibe Machine Mark II? I can't get a good sound out of mine. It lacks that 3D texture like the Deja 2. How Dan set his Vibe Machine on the latest Univibe episode. Yes, you need to experiment with those little tiny
Trimmers.
yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't think much of the Vibe Machine, did we? And then we messed about with the trimmers.
Yes, because Andy bought one in,
Yeah.
right? And we heard Andy's just went, "Oh my giddy aunt, that sounds spectacular."
Dry Bell Vibe Machine.
The dry bell vibe machine. It says they just got to trim it, and we set it up, and it's like, there it is.
Yeah.
And it's got that thrubub.
So I think if you've already got one of these, Yashir, apologies for forgetting your name. If you've already got one of these, I think do some work on really understanding what those trimmers do.
Yeah. The
And
little ones on the side.
Little ones on the side, yeah. So Dan had his set. I mean, I don't suppose we've changed it in the chorus mode, obviously. In the custom setting, and then we just tweaked the trimmers. I can't think of another Univibe that sounds any better than that.
No, it's great.
Without it being like a
real one.
Like a really marginal difference.
Yeah.
But if you are really annoyed and you really can't find it, Jam Pedals Retrovibe Mark II.
is killer.
That's my favourite one.
Daniel Webb says, Mick, please show us how to find the magic point. It would be good to understand before I go from a 5-watt head to a 12 or a 30 watt. And amp distortion moves to the end of the signal chain, ?
Yeah, if we can do a show on that, it would be really great. Dan, let's do something.
Okay.
Turn the Soldano on. So
Right.
you won't hear us talking. I'll explain what I'm going to do, and if we need to talk at length, you'll explain it. I'll explain it. What I'm going to do is we're going to go into the crunch channel of the Soldano.
Okay.
And what you're going to hear is we're going to use the TS808 as a little bit of overdrive and boost. And I'm going to set the amp as clean as I can get it, and then I'm going to up the gain, and you'll hear what the TS808 does.
So I'm going to
To
bring
the
the TS808 in and out.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if this works, and then we can discuss afterwards. You can change the channel on there. We'll just check that Fraser's not getting frightened to death with the level changes there. Is that about right, Fraser? Mm-hmm. So what you're going to hear now is the Soldano crunch channel set pretty clean, and then Dan is going to switch the Tube Screamer on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Do me a favour, Dan.
Yes.
Play something leady and hold a bend
Okay.
with it on and off.
Okay.
Just hold the bend and see what sort of sustain we get.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do now is turn the gain up in the amplifier, so the front end distortion of the Soldano.
Mm-hmm.
And can you just do the same thing?
Yep.
I'll turn it up as you play.
Okay.
What I hope you can hear there is it just gets harmonically richer, even though it's not massively more gainy. It's a bit more gainy. And that, to me, is approaching what we might term the sweet spot, because you're getting the extra harmonics of the amp working a bit harder. Remember, we're only talking about front-end amp gain at this point. And just all those extra harmonics are just a bit chewier, a bit nicer. And when you add the tube screamer, you still get the flavour of the tube screamer, but it's pushing the amp into a new place, which was a bit sort of anemic when the amp was just
really, really quiet.
So let's do two more things. I'm going to max out the gain in the clean channel.
Okay.
And then we'll just do a quick one on the what happens in the overdrive channel.
Okay. Yep.
So you want to talk about sweet spots? That is a key sweet spot for me when something like a tube screamer makes it start to feed back.
Yeah.
And we're not really any louder. I mean, the dB meter should be telling the story. It's a little bit louder, but not much. Now, the problem comes when you hit the overdrive channel, Dan, and we're just going to do the same thing, and the overdrive channel going to set fairly gainy, and watch what happens when you switch the tube screamer on.
Okay.
See, now for me, we've gone past the sweet spot there.
Yes.
And the amp is just into too much gain, and you put the pedal on, it's like, yeah, sure, you could start experimenting with the guitar a bit more, and there's some good textures to be had there. And certainly if you were to plug the gem in or go for that high gain kind of sound, you need that. However, that sweet spot, I think, for me and you, exists in that where it's overdriving but not much, and then the pedal makes it overdrive even more.
Yeah, the pedal works with the character of the gain of the amplifier. See, for me, I would love just two of the normal channels and switch between them.
Yeah,
that'd work brilliantly
but
for me.
Up loud with no pedals, that overdrive channel is majestic.
Yeah, it's killer. It's killer.
So it's. And then really what you're doing there is you're hitting the sweet spot of the amp without any pedals.
Yep.
So I think that's it, isn't it? It's how much gain do you want? Where does it live? From what range of clean and drive do you want to go to? And for us, that sort of the amp not breaking up too much and then hit it with pedals, that to me, that's the glorious place.
Yep.
Anyway.
Mark Ruick says, any chance for some DoD focus? Side note, any familiarity with the Digitech PDS series? Some great delays in there. Yeah, DoD is really interesting. I've had a couple of really old DoD things. There's a lot of history there. Some good stuff. Yeah, we can certainly have a look at that.
Yeah, and then I don't know where the hookup with Digitech came, but they ended up all being owned by Harman Group,
right?
Who owns Digitech, and I think Harman also owns Lexicon.
Oh wow, really?
So I think it's Lexicon, and then so what you've found is some of those Lexicon delay algorithms ending up in Digitech products.
So that was like the Supernatural and those ones. Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's the case. Thank you to Nico Yellow Dog. It's very kind of you.
Noah Bottomer says, open 2x12, JTM 45 dry, 2x10 Allen Encore, wet with tremolo. Ignore my playing. My tone owes you both.
Sounds like it.
For Mick, the 2x12 is Neo Creams at 8 ohms, and the curve seems great. Have you tried them? Neo Creams. I don't know them.
The creamback neodymium speaker.
So Neo Creambacks, yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on neodymium speakers. Just don't like them. Sorry.
Here we go. Ian, looking for a clean, high headroom amp. Any suggestions for something that won't break the bank? What?
Hot Rod
Depends on your
DeVille.
bank. Hot Rod DeVille. Perfect.
Or if that's going to break the bank, then Hot Rod Deluxe. Just lovely, much clean.
Yeah, beautiful.
Much clean. And the DeVille, for me, if you can go for a DeVille, because then you get either a 212 or a 410.
The 212 DeVille is
It's such a great amp.
spectacular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really great
Really
amp
great.
for very sensible money.
Yeah.
Carl Longbottom, who we were talking about earlier with the guitars, he says, can he please make a correction about his guitars? They have all Radio Shop pickups, not Wilkinson. I said Wilkinson because the bridge was Wilkinson, so I
Right.
got confused. So all Carl
Radio Shop.
uses is Radio Shop, and that was the P90 in the bridge of that guitar.
Yeah. Aaron Ember says, thank you so much for everything you guys have taught me. You've taught me a ton. Here's a question. Why do some true bypass loopers have a tuner out and some don't?
To save a loop.
Just the design, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, saves a loop, and so you don't have to put your tuner in a loop.
Yep.
It also means you can leave it on all the time, and depending on how it's routed, some of those things allow you to leave that on all the time. So you get like the stage rack tuner where it's constantly on.
Yeah. Yeah. But it does require a buffer to do that. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, my wife is texting me again. From Science Saves, but is always wrong in the end. At that pedal show. What? All science is wrong in the end, mate. At that pedal show, could the EQ pedal go in front of the chain, end of the chain, or the effects loop? Are there pros and cons to each position? Thanks for making these shows.
So that's all about gain staging.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you want to achieve. If you put it at the front of the chain, you're boosting into your gains. If you put it at the end of the chain, you're doing like a master shaping before the preamp. Put it in the effects loop, and it's great in the effects loop as either a boost or like a master EQ for everything. You can even use it as an attenuator and then shape the sound as you pull the level down. Yeah, EQ pedals are great.
Yeah, the advice would be to try it everywhere and just see what it's doing for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then once you get to hear that, then you'll sort of get a feel for where you want it.
Grumpy Digger, thank you, mate. That's very kind. Project Balrog says, I have a pedal that Gigrig doesn't support, the EHX Graphic Fuzz, which runs 40 volts. How can I avoid ground hum, considering it needs to be powered by its own supply? If it's powered by its own supply, that supply will be isolated. So there are some pedals like, some tube pedals that take a massively high current. Those things, it's part of a consideration when you buy the pedal is how you power it. But the EH thing, the wall wart that it comes with is that will be isolated. So that shouldn't be causing you any issues. If it is, get in touch with Electroharmonics. Gino Inzo. Hey Gino. He says, hey lads, thanks as always. We're all on the quest for the best guitar. Does the notion of the catch-all guitar exist? If so, what is it to you?
Unclean! No! No. The point of guitars is they do one thing and they do it well, and that's why you need 50 or 33. So, no.
Saying that though,
Fender Telecaster.
I can do my Tele, especially Red. I could do every gig. I did every gig for years on that guitar and really didn't need anything else.
So what can't you do? You can't do any whammy bar stuff on it.
No, can't do that stuff.
If you want to get into piezo and all that, that's really not our. Then you basically have to buy an Ernie Ball Music Man.
Yeah. But I could do all the hard rock stuff and think of the Rage Against the Machines and all those telly
Yeah.
sounds and stuff. You know, so it's all there, but it's definitely it's not a heavy humbucker sound. It's a heavy Telecaster sound. You know, and they are different.
My DGT is pretty versatile guitar,
Amazing guitar.
but what you end up with is one thing that it's really brilliant at, and then the split coil sounds. They're okay. They're totally passable.
Yeah.
But they're compromised
They
compared
are.
to a
And
Strat.
that's the
or-
thing, isn't it? That's about compromise.
So the question is, how versatile do you really need it to be?
Yeah.
And what are the things you're prepared to compromise
Yeah.
on?
That's the
But
question.
You know what? I would say if you had, I don't know, like a decent humbucker guitar and a decent single coil guitar,
That's a good start.
yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah.
But
We've got
yeah.
33 and we're not done. So,
What, 33 unanswered?
No, 33 guitars.
Oh, I see.
And we're not done yet. The Andy Paul 85, thanks Andy, he says, "Oh, hi guys, I want to buy myself a Jazzmaster. What are your thoughts on the Fender Ultra range? Do you have any Jazzmaster models that stood out to you?"
I'm not the right person to ask that question.
Okay. But
I'm if it's designed after 1965, I'm just not interested when it comes to guitars. Sorry. If it's modern takes on old guitars, for sure, which is why I love Collings so much. But for me, a Jazzmaster is the guitar they made between 1958 and 1966 or whatever.
right. And the one that we've got?
Well, the one that we've got is a bit of a mongrel. It's a classic series lacquer, so it's loosely a 60s one.
Oh, okay.
Because of an early 60s one, or even a late 50s one for that matter. They changed a block inlay somewhere in the mid 60s there.
Oh, wow.
With
Okay.
binding on the neck
Right.
and colour coded headstock, some of them, which was really super cool. This one doesn't have the locking mechanism on the bridge, so this is a sort of a cost effective interpretation of a late 50s, early 60s one.
Sounds great, though.
It's a great guitar. It's
Yeah.
a really, really great guitar. And funnily enough, I did a load of reading on this today.
Right.
So I know how to fix it.
Do you?
It might all be that screw there.
Okay.
Is there a
Right.
screwdriver on the desk, Fraser?
No.
Oh.
Okay, well, Mick's doing that. Soren led it. Hi, Soren.
And sorry, if you, so the custom shop ones are absolutely awesome if you
Beautiful.
want to spend the money.
Yeah.
If you don't want to spend the money, the last bunch of American Vintage reissue before the change in 2018, 2019 to American Original. So they were bob on.
Right.
Absolutely bob on. American Vintage. And then the Ultras, I haven't played one. As far as I know, the Ultras are like modern playability tweaks. So flatter fingerboard radiuses, sculpted heels, different pickups and all that. And with great respect to Fender and anyone who's got one of those guitars, at that point it's a Jazzmaster shaped object in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
which is totally cool because
Totally
so is,
cool.
so is Dan's
So is
great
mine.
guitar skipper.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Soren led it. Says, "Hi guys, love the show on Friday. Mick, did you get a new Collings 2290 DCS?
No.
Appeared a little different. Also, can't wait to hear Blondie with the Ron Ellis LRP humbuckers. Love the new setup. Monday's just got better." Yeah, no, you've had that forever.
I have, but the pick guard and the truss rod cover got changed.
Oh wow.
So, and that was a year or so ago, or maybe more than that. It had a black guard and truss rod cover, and I wanted a torty one. So it might be that the reason it looks different. Man, the neck on this guitar.
It's incredible. Yeah. Chris Groom says, "Hi Dan, hi Mick. The pros on stage split their signal many times to multiple amps. How many times can you split the signal before losses get too much?" I think a fly just flew into my mouth. Right. So you can split it a bunch. It all depends on, okay, what you need with your signal to your amplifier is you need one path to earth, okay? Then you can have as many paths isolated via audio transformers, but those audio transformers generally need to be driven. So put it this way, if I just split the cable passively, every time I split that cable, you get a massive, it basically doubles the impedance and you get the loading down. So if you split it passively, you're going to start losing top end, and every time you do that, triples and quadruples the load. So what they will do is they'll use audio transformers and they'll buffer the signals of those transformers. So it depends on the quality of the audio transformers they're using to do the isolation, and the, like for example, if they're wound to be a high impedance input, then the buffer will drive them easily, and you can have loads. So it all depends on the design and the quality of the stuff you're using to split that signal. But you can do it like I've had 10 amps on the go, the 10 humdingers all in a row.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't split it any more than thrice, do they?
No, three times.
So you've got wet, dry, or stereo.
Yep.
One split, or you've got wet, dry, wet, 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 dry, wet.
You once, twice, thrice times a wet, dry, wet rig.
Yes. So somebody says here, oh, it's moved again. It moved. It's really annoying. Somebody says, oh, Kevin Lewis says, can we have more of the Collings 360 LT, please? You can. Here's some.
Epic. Man, that guitar is so cool.
Oh, this sound is good.
Isn't that great?
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. There you go. Kevin Lewis, that's for you. Now, I am contemplating putting a Bigsby on this.
Oh, baby.
The only thing is I'm going to have two blooming great holes there,
Okay.
which isn't great.
Can you
So-
get one of those things that fit on there and does the do?
Was that designed after 1965?
That's a good point. But like, as that guitar was.
Yes, it's true.
Okay, Brad says, have y'all considered an episode on master volumes, how they're different from attenuators and how much master volumes differ from each other? Thanks as always. It's an interesting show. So yeah, we'll consider that, Brad. That's great. And Herschel Thompson says, pies are round, not squared. Don't you know that? Fair enough. Fair enough. David Burke says, Mick, could you explain the need for 50 guitars direct to my friends and family, please? It's more convincing when someone independent does it.
It's really easy. At the risk of a sexist comment, the analogy I always used was shoes. Now, I have lots of shoes. I'm a shoe fiend. I really like shoes.
You're a shoe, yes.
But, you know, the horrible stereotype is that ladies like shoes and have lots of shoes. And this was an analogy I heard in the documentary Twang Bang Kerrang from Dave in Acton. And Dave said, you know, you wouldn't wear your wellies to a wedding and you wouldn't wear your best shoes to do the gardening. That's why you need lots of guitars.
That's very good.
And I thought that was prophetic,
Yeah.
deep, and philosophically insightful.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I also never developed a a debilitating drug habit. So I think of all the money I saved from not doing that,
Oh, yeah.
I've put into guitars.
Oh, yeah, the money you haven't spent on other things.
There you go.
So I've never spent any money on children. So I don't have any children.
Right.
It's unbelievable how much money you can save not having children. Yeah, John Foss says, what was the brand of bridge grade upgrade for the Jag or Jazzmaster? It's been mentioned in a few shows. Mastery, Mastery is the American one. And there is a British version as well, apparently, but so I heard supply is difficult. Anyway, I shall do the research.
Yeah, but
Mastery is the one that the top-end
Magic.
guitar builders use,
Yep.
including Collings and Grey guitars.
Yeah, really magic. Wesley DeWitt says, hey, gents, I have boutique pedals and a hand-wired, he says maps, but I think he means amps. Is it worth upgrading my AVRI Telly and IAG to custom, does he mean Jag, to custom shop? It's worth it if it's worth it to you.
All depends on the guitar.
Yeah.
I've had my AVRI Blue Strat there for many
That's
years.
a magic guitar.
I've played more custom shop Strats than many people, and there's two that I am desperately sorry I never bought, and the rest good, fantastically good guitars, but not ones that I would want to exchange for that.
Yeah, no, that's magic. Right. Oh, okay. We're nearly there. So I think what we'll do is we'll stop. We'll put a line under the.
Yes, please, no more super chat.
No more super chats for now.
won't
We'll get
to
these
them.
last ones. Zach Kirkorian says, have you tried the Weber Mass 100 attenuator? I have a 1995 Fender Vibra King. What is your thought on attenuators? Do you have video on attenuators? I think we do. It was a long time ago.
I have never tried the Weber.
No, I never tried the
Or
Weber.
Weber. I don't know how you say it.
I think attenuators is a really good subject to
Yeah, we've done shows on them, and my Dan and I, the sort of the bottom point is, if you're using an attenuator to take off 3 or 6 dB from a cranked amp, it can be a really super useful thing to do.
Yeah.
If you're trying to take a 100 watt amp down to 1 watt for an apartment, they work, but it's just not the same thing.
Yeah,
Once
sure.
you lose the volume, it's just not the same thing. All that said, the Iron Man 2 that's in the Tone King Imperial Mark II sounds and feels spectacularly good.
It does. It's beautiful.
So it really depends. Vibro King though, cool. What a cool amp that is.
Yeah. Is that the one that I think Dave Gregory had this main XTC amp for a long time? Anyway, Nick Osborne says, hi guys, any idea if a product like the Dan Electro Billionaire battery box exists but can switch batteries automatically as a backup? It can switch batteries automatically as a backup. Just trying to think how that would work. So if you're saying what the power supply gives out and the batteries kick in. So there are ones that actually I modded one of those so that it put a relay in it so that it would disconnect the earth to the batteries so when the power was unplugged, so you wouldn't have to take the inputs out of the pedals. And that worked well, but I can't think of how that would work. But a very interesting question. Very interesting question, Nick.
Jez Matheson, I'm a 2 amp man, and I'm down to just my Fender 57 Custom Deluxe. Dan and Mick, I want to hear what amp you would choose in my situation. Americana, Neil Youngy, rock-based tones. So are you saying instead of your Fender 57 Custom Deluxe, or are you saying in addition to?
This is a 2 amp man. He's only got 1 amp now.
Right. So what would you pair with that? I'll start Marshall 2061 20 watt head and 212 cab.
Okay, that's very nice. I would go, if you're into the Neil Young thing, Lazy J J20 or a J10, depending on how much girth you need. But for the Neil Young thing, it's awesome.
Yeah, I imagine he's getting that out of his 57 Custom Deluxe. But
oh, sorry. Okay. Then I would go for the Princeton.
Oh, Princeton. Good
Yep.
shout.
Yep.
Really good shout.
Yeah. Michael Belder says, hey guys, still trying to come up with better questions to ask. So just saying hi. You're the best. Cheers from the Czech Republic. That's awesome, Michael. That's awesome.
Alexander Henschel says, hi guys, what are your thoughts on a Marshall Bluesbreaker 1962 30-watt combo amp? All good.
Yeah.
All good thoughts.
Yeah. Very good.
Extremely heavy.
Yeah.
You've got to turn it up, and they are crazy loud.
Yep.
I mean, it only says 30 watts, but they are crazy loud. So if you can use that, brilliant. If it's too much of a pain in the butt to carry around such a thing, then JTM 45 is the same thing,
Yeah.
but in a head, and you could get a cab to go with it. But
Yep.
yeah, just, I mean, well, Beano album, anyone?
Yeah. Right.
Sound of Ages.
David Burke says, it's true, Dan. My main argument is that a well-rounded person needs at least one vice. Mine is a guitar habit. Yep. Well done, David.
My Secret Machine, Mick and Dan. Just loved the vid where you showed all your guitars. I'm thinking of a semi-hollow. The Gibson 335 is too expensive. Thoughts on a cheaper alternative?
Oh, what was that one?
Every week I forget this brand name, and it's really bad because Pepin, the guy that represents them, is an awesome dude.
We had them all.
Eastman.
Eastman guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Eastman do a really good job. Ibanez Art Core series if you're on even more of a budget.
Or try and or have a look at an old Ibanez artist.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
They are wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, well, John Abercrombie plays one. John
Schofield.
Schofield, yep. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Andy Partridge, XTC, that's those guitars.
Yeah, and Epiphone, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Randy Wilcox says, last one. Hello, gentlemen. Whenever I'm given flack about guitars, pedals, etc., I find something that hits them personally. Cigarettes, video games, bar nights, luxury cars, shuts them up easily.
Yeah.
Yes, Randy.
Cars is a great one.
Yeah.
Cars is great. People spend crazy money and lose crazy money on cars. I should know. Dan and I bought new cars for the first time ever, like 3 or 4 years ago. Never bought a new car before in my life, but it kind of makes sense.
We'll never buy a new one again.
Once you add up the monthly cost of running any car, it doesn't differ that much if the finance works. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. And today it went back. And today I'm going to feel what that means. We're just prepared to lose stupid money on cars.
Yeah.
And yet we bulk about spending $5,000 on a guitar. Now you might consider it a luxury item. Which is a different conversation.
Yep.
Not for me.
Yep.
Essential.
Right, there we go. I don't think I've missed any. But if we have missed any, that we will reply to you personally in the comments. Yes. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the new setup. It was great fun.
So what we want to do is, like, I don't know whether you'd call it a deep dive or what you'd call it, but we can have a separate kind of show, which is not necessarily a VCQ thing because it's hard to stay on top of all the just general questions. So we'll say, right, we're going to talk about this thing, whatever this thing is, and we shall restrict the comments and questions to that and go deep on it. I'm really excited about doing that.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Because it feels a bit more interactive.
It does.
And then when we get something wrong, you can tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
Instead of having to wait for Monday's VCQ.
Yeah, 100 people just shouting at their screens.
Yeah.
You're getting it wrong!
Use an expression pedal!
Brilliant. Okay, guys. As always, thank you to BV doing the moderation.
Massive thanks to BV.
Thank you, BV. You're an absolute legend. Please check out that pedalshowstore.com. We can get the T-shirts and hoodies and books and D&M drives and all the stuff is there.
I think we've run out of D&M drives.
Have we?
Yeah, we need to get some more.
Okay. Also, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon.
Thank you.
That's, couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you so much. And, to our preferred retailers, all details you can see everywhere. But below.
In the box below.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so
Groovy.
much. Have a fantastic week. See you on Friday, then see you again on Monday. Thanks so much. See you guys. Bye.
Cheerio!